You're listening to Empress Conversations podcast with your host, Maggie Peary. Conversations with Maggie. Yeah, yeah. Join us next time on the next episode of Empress Conversations with Maggie. To learn more about guests or for more information on working with Maggie, go to www.empressconversationswithmaggie.com/get-started.
Hello and welcome. My guest today is Dahlton Bennington. Dahlton is the managing director and owner of Profound Planning. As a tenured meeting and incentive professional, Dahlton leads several Fortune 500 companies' meetings and incentive programs and advocates for business growth with knowledge, experience, and respect to motivate, educate, and inspire our clients' teams. Dahlton leverages meeting and incentive programs to achieve key corporate goals, secure buy-in, and promote staff bonding around core performance objectives and fiscal responsibility. She excels in coordinating the multiple layers of people and logistics to stage consistency, high-quality, memorable corporate events. Dahlton, welcome.
Thank you, Maggie. It's a pleasure to be here.
You are so welcome. So, Dahlton, do tell our listening audience here a little bit more about you and Profound Planning.
Okay. Thank you for the bio. That was fantastic. It's a lot of words. I usually will summarize that to the fact that I herd cats for a living. In general, I enjoy what I do. I love what I do, and that makes everything, I guess, easier for me. But you asked a little bit about me. So I have been blessed to have had a great career. I spent nearly just over 15 years in the staffing and recruiting world, working for one of the largest staffing and recruiting companies, managing their meetings and incentives. And after that, pretty much started my own company, but also worked with some other companies as well. I didn't initially focus on being entrepreneurial and starting my company right away. It took me a while, but that's probably more for later. And then just really love meetings and management and worked with different clients that I'd met over the years, ultimately started my own company and have been very focused on it the last 5 years, and delighted to say that we're doing well.
You know, Dahlton, you so easily made it sound so simple like you did. You worked with a $1 billion organization here, so it wasn't anything small. So with that
skill, 3 billion.
There we go. Thank you. It was
Sure.
a big deal. It was a big deal. It is a big deal.
Yeah.
So with that time that you were there, what skill set would you say you really are using now with Profound Planning versus being in a corporate environment?
I think the thing that I learned most was managing talent, and really understanding how the corporate world works. One of the great things about working in staffing and recruiting companies is they are very focused on the people. Talent management is very important. They also tend to be on the cutting edge of initiatives and things that relate to people. So having that background was phenomenal for me in understanding what we need to do to create metrics that will drive performance in organizations, and also how people will react to the metrics that we put in place and how we can communicate to them, and what messages are received, how they're received, and how we can truly make them feel special. I manage meetings and incentives, and earlier in my career, I thought it was 5 days in Aruba and this absolutely fabulous trip is what really motivates them. And through my experience, I learned that yes, that is a great motivator, but equally as prominent as that is for the individual worker is actually how the rewards are delivered and how they're recognized and who recognizes them. And how that's communicated within the organization, and the amount of pride and feelings that they can get when they're recognized by their peers is equally as important as that great trip. So I think having had the opportunity to spend so much time in an organization that was really focused on its people, and making sure that they felt recognized and rewarding was a great foundation, and helps me to be very successful today. I also feel very blessed that a lot of the earners or the winners of our incentive programs in the past now have their own companies, and I'm excited to say that many of them are my clients, and one of whom has been a significant mentor for me and really helped me grow. So it's interesting how full circle it all comes around.
Right, right. So for our
Yeah.
audience, Dalton and I were in school together way back in the day. But I want to focus back here on profound planning. So besides you, Dalton, and your member 17 team that you have at Profound Planning, what sets you apart in the industry?
Well, we don't have 17 partners right now. We have we're up to 17 clients, but as far as full-time staff, there's just two of us at the moment. And that's mainly predominantly coming out of COVID. And I'm sorry, I've completely forgotten the question.
No, that's actually good because that brings me to a follow-up. The question in
Yeah.
itself was what really sets Profound Planning apart within the industry?
What I think our competitive differentiator against our peers is our one-on-one approach to our clients. The clients that I work with them from start to finish. So, working with them to help develop the metrics within their organization, as well as creating the program, the trip itself, and then managing it from communications to fulfillment. Majority of my peers that have businesses like Profound will have an account executive. They may also have someone that sells the business and then another team that will operate the business. But my clients get the benefit of myself and my team throughout the entire program. And that's kind of somewhat of a different model, but one that definitely sets us apart and gives continuity to all of our programs, which is nice.
That is nice. So you touched a little bit on COVID. How
Yeah.
did you survive? Because you just mentioned a team of two. That was a really eye opener in terms of what happened with a lot of businesses. So what did you do? How did you make it through?
COVID was that black swan event that I think we were all taken by surprise.
Right.
None of us could have predicted what happened. For us personally, I feel we were fortunate that early in 2020, we were able to um, fulfill one incentive program. Actually, it was a brand new client, so it was kind of an interesting project, all full of those butterflies doing something new, but had an absolute phenomenal successful program in Aruba that ended, I think, March 10th. So for us in Florida, our kind of shutdown date was really March 13th. So coming off of that event and having been out of the country, coming into the country, it's like, okay, what's happening? Um, Subsequently, right after that, that's pretty much when literally all of our clients started canceling their programs. So for us, the first few months of COVID was negotiating with hotels, trying to navigate the waters of what is this, how long is it going to last. My industry peers will hate me for saying the word pivot, but we pivot from this set of dates to that set of dates, reschedule it,
Right.
try to mitigate the risks in our clients' loss of money. Ultimately, canceled all of those programs. Started rolling into 2021. Um, Again, moving programs, canceling them, and getting very lean. As far as the company, it essentially I did not really work for 18 months. How I survived was I did a little bit of consulting work on some virtual events and helped some friends of mine with their user experience, and looking at programs from kind of a different lens and on virtual events, which has not been really my forte. But also just having faith in my clients and my ability to manage their programs and really stay true to who I was. I won't lie and say that my brother was very excited. He's like, finally, you're going to jump into real estate. I'll pay for you to get your license. Come join the family business. And so many of my peers did. And I was just like, while that's appealing, and it's certainly a booming industry right now, it's not what I love to do, and it's not where my passion is. And I think a lot of my success derives from the fact that I truly am in love every day with my work, with my clients, and being able to meet what their needs are and their stakeholder needs and achieve success for their companies as well as my own. So ultimately, August came around of 2021, and literally all of my clients came back, and ended up pulling in about 3 to 4 more. So we have been busting at the seams, which is phenomenal. And I'm delighted to say that the perseverance and commitment to the company and to my clients actually paid off, and we're now back to being a thriving company and growing.
Fantastic, and congratulations, because
Thank you.
even though you said your industry does not like to hear the word pivot,
Ooh,
that is
good word
so
now.
the word. That's the word, though. There is nothing else I could use to describe it. That's just the
Yes.
word. So you mentioned the word, that's not where my passion is. One thing I do know is your love for travel.
Yes.
So talk to us a little bit more, because you've been around this world and then some. With all of your travel, your thoughts on what got you started, and then just, with now that the world has changed, travel as a woman going by yourself. So, any
Yeah. I attribute my love for travel to bad 80s sitcoms. I think I watched Arthur Haley's Hotel as a kid one too many times and decided I wanted to own hotels all around the world. So that was kind of my dream since I was about 8 years old. And this will be poignant for you considering where we first met. But literally just wanted to own hotels and travel and see the world. My mother was she was actually very entrepreneurial. She was actually one of the first female real estate developers in Clearwater, St. Pete, and
wow.
extraordinarily successful. Her business model was working with a lot of Europeans and bringing them into the US. So, um, you know, when I was Girl Scout age, 9, 10, I guess, I had been to more countries than states,
Wow.
just traveling kind of with my mom. So I was brought into it very early. So my dream of owning hotels, I applied to Cornell, as well as a lot of hotel schools, decided ultimately to go to BU. And then for one circumstance over another, I wasn't able to go to BU. I was absolutely devastated. And my mom found this fabulous school in Europe, and she's like, how would you feel about going to school in France? You've studied French for 10 years. Why don't you go? So long story short, I ended up to school in Switzerland because they didn't have housing in France, which is where we first connected.
Right.
And really, that was the first time I was really immersed on my own in a completely new environment with, I want to say we were over 70 students with nearly 55, I think, nationalities. So it was really an experience to learn different cultures firsthand and
Mhm.
just understand the differences of individuals. And that introduction just came into something that I was fascinated by and loved traveling and wanted to experience more of it. So, got my hotel degree, became a meeting planner. And I look at it and I think that I own hotels for about a week at a time all over the world, but I get to give them back and I don't have any of the headaches of engineering, housekeeping, finance, real estate, all of those things that actual hotel owners have to deal with. But
That's the best part. I think you got the
right?
best part of the deal. So, Dalton, what are your thoughts on women traveling alone internationally?
I would say be cautious, know your surroundings, know where you're going. Um, Look at and be sensible, be smart about it. But certainly, definitely don't need to be afraid of it. Having traveled a lot, I will share that. I'll share one of my fun tidbits, but I love wine. I've loved it for forever, and one of the things that I found is that local wine tastings are a fun way to meet people and feel comfortable in new environments. There's a great website called localwineevents.com. It's all around the world, and they just share different website or wine tastings that you can go to. But I found being smart and sensible in hotels and knowing where you're traveling, having a plan, knowing where you're going, and then just being safe in what you do is the best advice I can give you. And then find something that you like and look for opportunities to enjoy what you love in different cities so that you can have the best experience and really immerse yourself in a city's culture.
I love that. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Absolutely. So, Dalton, with everything that you do now, if somebody is listening, what courses, programs would you recommend that someone actually take in order to, if they were even trying to pursue something like what you're doing?
You know, hospitality has degrees have come a long way. I mean, back in my day, it was you took hotel management. I
Mhm.
remember being recruited out of college as a meeting planner, and I actually had no idea what it was. I had a choice as the front office manager of a Ritz Carlton and actually in Atlanta, Buckhead,
Oh,
or this meeting planner job. And I was like, this meeting planner job sounds kind of fun. Um, so courses, there's so many different ways that you can get into this industry, from hotel management degrees, meeting management, sports and rec, tourism, um, all avenues. Even communications, marketing, PR are great avenues to get into this because so much of what we do is communication.
mm,
I've had some great employees that have backgrounds in sociology and psychology. I think truly to be successful in this industry, it's, one, it's a passion for it,
right.
it's enjoying it. I always joke that I don't like people. Um, but the truth of the matter is, if you don't like people, it's not the right industry for you. You really kind of have to want to genuinely, engage with others and ferret out what their needs are and meet them and try to exceed them. So, someone who is outgoing, organized, communicates well, and in general enjoys travel and being with people, I think would be very successful. And to just kind of give it a shot. There's so many entry paths to meeting management, from being a trip director to working with destination management companies,
Mm.
meeting management companies, as well as hotels, venues, catering, and all the different touch points that we work with.
That is so good. That's so good. Going back to the travel
Yeah.
episode. Well, you know what? One thing you mentioned with your team, okay, because I'm sure it'll grow back again. You know how things go with life and work. Did you ever plan incentive trips for your own teams?
My company has always, while it's been my own, has been too small for it. I like to think that the incentives that I offer are more, what's the new term for it? Quiet quitting. Uh,
Oh,
elements for it. But yes, when I was partnered with other organizations, we did do incentive programs for our own team, and those were travel programs, very much like what we do for our clients.
that's awesome. That is absolute because that, like you said, you gotta have fun, right? You gotta enjoy it. You gotta have a love for people. So all of that makes sense. And
Yeah.
what better thing if you're not enjoying the perks of your own hard work here? So that's really good.
Yes.
You know what, Dalton? When it comes to contract negotiation, what
Mm.
advice would you give specifically to women in negotiating contracts?
Specific to women, I would say, you know, really read the contract, focus on both sides' point of view, and really try to determine what's the best win-win relationship that you can negotiate for you as and for the other side. It's a two-way street. I also feel like communication is key. Being open and being honest and being flexible is critical. And then I would probably caution women. We have a tendency to want to meet in the middle.
Right.
Um, and I would actually caution women to not fall into that pattern and really look at it and say, okay, how can I aim high? What can I strive and reach for? And then really work with both sides to kind of find out what's important to them, share what's important to you, and then meet where everyone gets what they need. And if you walk out and everyone's a little uncomfortable, it's probably a great deal for both.
That's really good. That's really good advice. Thanks, Dalton. Another thing I was wondering, so if you had your magic crystal ball and you could look back, at what point in your career, in your business, would you have been like, man, if only I had known this, I would have done this?
Hmm. You know, I feel like everything that I've experienced in my career and my challenges have all been opportunities to grow. Um, there's been certain things that have happened that have been foundations that have helped me all along. Um, I, September 11th for me was kind of a big one.
Mm.
So I think, if anything, I kind of wish when that happened, I had had a little bit more experience with events like that. At the same time, thank God I didn't have experience with events like that, because, I don't think we ever want to experience that
No,
again.
exactly.
Um, but that was, an incredible opportunity for me as a meeting planner to showcase my value to the company and how we could really move on from that. And the background of that is we actually had a program that was happening in Colorado Springs with about 750 people that was due to start about 2 weeks after September 11th. So we actually had production crew that literally loaded trucks and started driving on September 13th, 14th, because all ground transportation was curtailed, or flight
Mhm.
transportation. So navigating through those waters was very interesting. Renegotiating contracts, getting through that, definitely became foundations for success now. And some of the things that I learned during that actually, as far as always having a rebooking clause in contracts, came to play in COVID, actually. So
I was just, where were you on that day?
September 11th.
Yeah.
Um, oh, this is a horrible story. I was actually in my office because we had a program that was 2 weeks away. I was frantically dotting I's, crossing T's, and really putting all the finishing touches on our largest incentive program of the year. We were in our corporate headquarters, which housed about 600 associates.
Mm.
And when I was also on the emergency response team for the organization. And my office sat outside kind of our corporate training center. So literally, my colleague went into our training center, put the TVs on so that the staff in the building could come in and watch it. And the first tower had fallen, and Joe's like, "Dalton, you need to come in here and watch this." I'm like, "Joe, I really can't right now. I really need to be focused on this." And the second tower fell, and Joe came in. He's like, "Dalton, you really need to get up and come in and watch this." And I just remember when I finally got up to watch it, just being absolutely heartbroken and devastated, and then immediately got called into corporate meetings and started discussing, are we going to have the event? Are we going to cancel the event? How is this going to impact what we're doing? And I just remember at the end of the day, when I finally left the office, I called my manicurist. I'm like, "I need a pedicure and a glass of wine. Can I come over?" And we just sat there, and I just tried to decompress from the unimaginable having happened, and then moved on from there.
It was a tough day. Today being the 16th, so that was just
Yeah.
Sunday. It was 21 years ago. So
Wow.
yeah, it was a tough day. A tough day for a lot of people. So
Yeah.
going back to profound planning,
Mhm.
let me ask you this: who would be your ideal dream client right now?
Ooh, all the ones I have,
Oh, I love it. Great answer.
right?
Answer. I love it. I love it.
You
If
know, I hate to say that I'm blessed. I love every single one of my clients. I feel like there isn't one that I would want to promote outside the company. I want to keep them all. Um, who would I want to duplicate, or who would be a dream client?
right.
Um, CEOs that really want to reward and recognize their talent, that are willing to think outside the box and create programs that are meaningful for them. For us, that tend to be small, medium-sized companies, as well as large Fortune 500 companies that really are focused on their talent. It's interesting because 85% of US organizations employ incentives to motivate their teams. So there's a big audience, and there's a lot of business out there for us. So my dream client really is someone that wants to motivate their teams and are looking for a great partner to create unique experiences.
You just said something because yesterday I was talking to another young lady, and since COVID happened, 90% of their team has not returned to their office.
Wow.
And her company was really struggling trying to get people back in.
Mhm.
And they were trying to think of all kinds of things to do, but even offered out PlayStations and big ticket items that still wasn't working. So, with people having now, most people are working remote. How has that affected the travel industry and what you're doing?
It's actually had a very big impact. The remote workforce is probably here to stay. Probably not as remote as it is, as lots of companies are mandating that employees come back in or even giving them the option to do that part time. But face to face meetings, as well as incentives, are a phenomenal way to bring their teams together,
Mhm.
give them the time that they need to interact with their peers, share best practices, kind of have more of those water cooler talks that we're all desperately missing as we work from home.
Of course.
But face to face is giving them that ability. It also gives them the ability to really create culture. One of my clients, actually, he's been my longest client. We work together at the staffing and recruiting company, and he recently he's part of a business owners consortium of like sized companies, which is probably one of the best practices that I would share with my peers. But anyway, so he is in this event, and one of the things that they were talking about was the challenge with the workforce today and how transient it is, and the lack of engagement employees have within the organizations and companies, how they move on, and how do you retain and recruit new talent and keep them within the organizations. And Doug's response to it was, really, it's the incentive program that we do that's made our company so successful, because it does engage their employees and it's been a significant driver of their culture.
Fantastic.
And he shared that at his one of his meetings, and because of that, I now have 3 new clients that are actually competitors of his, different markets. But
Wonderful. Wonderful.
I really do think that face-to-face meetings and events and opportunities to bring employees together, whether they are working within an office or in remote areas, as a remote workforce, it's certainly very beneficial to help retain them, attract them, and create your culture.
Well, Dalton, you are a wife, a sister, a fur baby mama.
Yeah,
Besides all the other responsibilities you have, in your opinion, can a woman really have it all?
I think so. Without a doubt, I would say they can. It's a matter of finding the balance that's right for you. Not everyone's balance is the same. But in today's world, you can absolutely have everything that you want.
I love that. And now going back to profound planning, any last words of goodbye or anything you'd like our listening audience to know as we get ready to wrap up?
Yes. Thank you for this opportunity. One of the things that I kind of would love to share is just, as a business owner, this wasn't my dream. I wasn't, despite the fact that I wanted hotels, I was not entrepreneurial. I really started my company just because I was doing consulting work, but didn't really want to focus on it. I really loved my steady paycheck, was very comfortable with that. And it was very much outside my comfort zone to start my own company. And I have to say, it's probably the scariest and hardest thing that I've ever done, but also the most worthwhile and beneficial. So if it's scary, you're thinking of it, jump in with both feet, surround yourself with people who can help support you and help make that dream come true. While it wasn't my dream, I feel blessed that I did have a client who was entrepreneurial that kind of reminded me that, what, if you're talented, you've got some great ideas, you've got a great foundation, you can do it. I started with a business partner who gave me the financial security that I needed, that I felt that I needed. And, 2 years later, I bought my partner out. And it was a phenomenal feeling to know that, wow, you know what, I can do this. And then to survive COVID, I felt like,
Mm.
God, there's nowhere else but up I can go. So what I can say is just, while you might not think it is for you, but you're intrigued by it, give it a second thought and jump in with both feet. Again, surround yourself with people that will help you.
Dalton, thank you so much for your time, and thank you everyone for listening in.
Thank you.
You're listening to Empress Conversations podcast with your host, Maggie Peary. Conversations with Maggie. Empress. Join us next time on the next episode of Empress Conversations with Maggie. To learn more about guests or for more information on working with Maggie, go to www.empressconversationswithmaggie.com/get-started.